Hey everyone, welcome back to So Arizona. It has been a few weeks since I have given an update about what is going on in the garden. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to quickly show you through the garden right now in nearly mid-February to show you what's blooming, what's growing, and also what I'm getting ready to plant, because those are all really important things for staying on track here in Southern Arizona for our quickly approaching spring season. First of all, we need to take a moment to admire all of these calendula, and you probably can't hear it, but it is just alive with the sounds of bees. There are so many honeybees here. I have seen a hummingbird moth just this morning, several kinds of butterflies, and I am just loving this orange display that these calendula are putting off for me. These are all volunteer. I have bragged about these several times over the past few months, so you will just have to humor me one more time. Well, actually, I will be bragging about these calendula again, but you'll have to humor me today so that we can just admire these and then move on. These are a main source of pollen and nectar right now in my garden for my pollinators, and I couldn't be more pleased with how they have turned out. Even though I have done none of the work, they planted themselves last year and came back for me, which is actually my favorite kind of flower. This is my garlic bed, and if you look around in here, you can see there is a hedge basically of calendula just surrounding this bed, and they are all different colors: light orange, dark orange. I've got some light yellow and some that are kind of in between. Like these, they kind of have a light bottom portion of the petal and then darker tips, and that is just so pretty. These are more of just kind of a single bloom, but then over here I've got some that are just a really nice full bloom. Very floofy indeed. Let's see if we can find some pollinators here. All of the garlic is doing really well. It's starting to size up a bit more now that the temperatures are warming just a bit. And then along this side, I'm really looking forward to the hedge of Orlea and Nigella and Scabiosa. These are all volunteer also. I wanted to check on the apple trees and the peach tree with you and a couple other things too, because I'm noticing that they are starting to break bud, and the apple trees actually have their very first blossoms on them, and so does the peach tree, which is very exciting. I'm really not sure how well the fruit is going to do this year because we only have had maybe 3 nights below freezing, so I don't think that we got the chill hours that we need to have a really good fruit crop this year, but we'll see how it goes. I will take whatever I can get, and I have surely learned from last year when that squirrel that lives in my prickly pear patch came out and ate all of the blossoms off of my apple tree. So one of the things on my to-do list for today is to get out some of this mesh or insect netting so that I can clip it to the front of these Espalier style apple trees, and that is so that I can keep the squirrel off, because apparently he really likes to eat the fruit blossoms, and I got very, very few apples last year because he beat me to it and ate all of the blossoms, so I will not make that mistake again. For those of you wondering about the style of these apple trees, they are grown right up against a wall. This is called the Espalier method. This is a great way to maximize space. If you are growing in a small space, you can just grow right along a fence or a wall, just as long as they do get some direct sun at least certain times of the day. This is also great in cooler areas because the wall will soak up heat during the day and then radiate it back out at night, keeping whatever is growing in front of it much warmer. I've had really good luck with this style until last year when the squirrel ate all my blossoms off. I've gotten quite a few fruits off of these trees. I have 3 trees. I have a golden Dorset in the middle, and I have 2 Annas on the ends, and that seems to be a really good combination for some cross-pollination pollination and really prolific fruit production. So if you're growing in a small space and you want to try your hand at doing an Espalier method, they are just braced onto this wall by 4 different wires that I use as a trellis, and I have turnbuckles in between so that I can tighten those wires as I need to over time, and they are anchored into this brick wall. And so I have 4 layers of branches. So I have them spaced about 12 to 16 inches apart between branch sets, and there are 2 on each side, and they are all trained on those wires. So it's pretty simple way to do it. These supplies were incredibly cheap. At Ace is where I got my supplies for this. So it was just some turnbuckles, some anchors, and some wires, and a little bit of hard work. And then I have had some great luck with this. You can do this with a lot of different kinds of fruit trees, not just apples. I've seen it done with pears, I've seen it done with plums, I've seen it done with figs. So probably any tree, maybe not a pomegranate, I'm not sure. You'd have to work pretty hard at pomegranates because they get pretty shrubby. But other trees, standard trees, those would do really well with this kind of training. Some work that I have to do here for these is I've got to weed around them. I've got the ever-present Bermuda grass making a rebound, and I've also got a ton of these thistles that I need to pull out of there. Last year I planted some yarrow seedlings around the base of each one of these apple trees. They make a really good ground cover. They will spread quite prolifically, so if you decide to plant any yarrow, you may want to make sure that it is contained unless you have an area where you're okay with it spreading out. I wanted it to attract pollinators. I wanted it to cover the ground so that it could preserve some of the moisture in the soil, and I also wanted to have a ground cover that would look really pretty, that could just spread and do its thing. I'm okay with it spreading here. So I've got 3 jobs here with my apple trees. I'm going to prune a little bit of the extra foliage that has grown over the last month or so, not the little spurs that the fruit will grow on, but just the branches that are starting to develop. So I'm going to prune some of those off. I'm going to cover it with some netting to protect it from the squirrel, and then I'm going to be coming through here and weeding out all of the Bermuda grass and all of these thistles so that I can see my beautiful yarrow, which is what I want, instead of a bunch of weeds. Last year I got some really beautiful fleabane that just kind of grew all around this area, and that was really nice. It attracted so many different native bees and tiny little pollinators. So if I see the fleabane coming up here, I'm not going to weed that out. I think that that is a wild flower, not a weed, and I'm hoping that I get a ton of them this year. I noticed that the first blooms on the peach are starting to pop just in the last week or so. I had referred back to my Google Photos. Sometimes I do that so that I can remember, if I haven't written it down, when certain things happened in the garden. And so I looked back to mid-February last year, and it looks like we are right on track with the peach tree blooming. So far, the new apricot and the new donut peach that I have in the back of the garden, they don't show any signs of blooming yet. So I'm going to keep an eye on those. I have a nectarine on the other side of the garden, which unfortunately did not make it through the winter. So I'm going to have to replace that tree. But I'm hoping that some of my other stone fruits are going to do really well this season. And I got so many peaches last year, and I have just been craving them. I cut up and froze a ton of the peaches last year. This is the Desert Gold peach, and they are really delicious. So I cut them up into quarters, froze them on a cookie sheet, and then after they were completely frozen, I put them into Ziploc bags so they wouldn't stick together. And I have been very stingy with those this year. Definitely been trying to savor them because I knew that I was going to have to make them last until probably maybe May. So hopefully I will get some peaches by May or June, and then I can go ahead and eat up the rest of last year's peaches. So let's go check out the rest of the garden. Aw, it looks like my Spanish lavender is starting to bloom again. The bees are going to be so happy about that, and it is really beautiful. I got that lavender last year on the clearance rack at Home Depot. I got 2 pots and they were $5 each. And actually it wasn't last year, it was the year before, because this is the second winter that it has survived. So 2 years ago, that is when I got it. So I planted it outside after it had it started getting a little yucky looking, but it made it through that first summer, and then it's made it now through 2 winters. And so far it has come back every spring and just put off a beautiful purple display that smells so good. And the bees really love it. So I say that was a really good $10 purchase. If you are looking for lavender, Spanish lavender usually blooms early in the spring and it kind of blooms all at once and then it's finished. But it does super well in the heat. The plants don't seem to mind it here in southern Arizona, so that might be a good choice for you. This is how the garden looks right now. I have a few beds that are empty that I just kind of let go, that I still need to clean out. And I've got some that I have covered because there are a few things that are a little bit sensitive in there. But I want to show you the things that are almost ready and some of the things that are growing so that you can keep track for your own garden schedule. These cabbages, I've had the worst time with some of my winter things this year, including the cabbages. First, the caterpillars came and they put in a lot of these nasty little holes. And I sprayed those with BT, which is kind of an organic treatment for those. And the caterpillars went away, but now I have got so many aphids, it's crazy. It is ridiculous. I don't even know if I'm going to be getting any cabbage this year. Can you all see those? So gross. They are just completely coating all of these cabbages. They're all really bad, honestly. I'll show you these two. They look good from afar, but when you look down really closely, they're just completely infested. Let's see. Just look at that. What I need to do is bring my garden hose over here and just really blast them. That is the best, simplest treatment for aphids, is just a really strong spray of water. It'll break their mouth parts and they will fall to the ground and not be able to return. But you will have to keep doing that because more aphids will appear. I've got a lot of things growing over in my 4x4 basin beds. I have cabbage, I have broccoli, I've got some Brussels sprouts, some rutabagas, and what else do I have? Oh, a lot of onions and leeks too, and some peas. So I've got quite a few things over there. I have just been having a really hard time with the aphids. Like I said, this year, the temperatures have just been so warm all through the winter season that I think that it is stressing the plants out, and the aphids are taking advantage of that because I think this is the worst aphid year I've ever had. So I will see what I can get off of those cabbages. I'm not really sure how well they're going to do. I'm going to give them, you know, another month or maybe 8 weeks or so, and then we'll see. And then it'll be time to harvest them and move on with the summer thing. So it just happens like that sometimes. If you are having trouble with pests this year, you are not alone. We are all having trouble with pests because it has just been really warm this winter. So normally I'm in zone 8B. I'm a little bit south of Tucson, and so we usually will get quite a few below freezing nights, and we've only had 3 or 4. So it's just been a really funny year. I'm really happy with my rutabagas. I think they're coming along nicely. They're starting to develop a root, which is exciting. I tried a new variety for me this year. It's a yellow rutabaga. I think it's called the Navone or Navarone. I'll have to put it up on the screen because the name of it right now is escaping me. But anyway, so that is doing really well. But my broccoli is bolting, and my cabbages, as I said, are covered in aphids. And and my Brussels sprouts are just feeling generally discouraged and stunted. So it's not been great this year for that. But I will say that the peas are doing great. A lot of the herbs are doing really well. I have some cilantro and some chamomile, and also some dill that I have over there started, and that's doing really well, coming right along. So I think I'm going to be able to start harvesting some of that dill and cilantro pretty soon here, maybe within the next week or so. And then as far as what is going on in some of these other beds, I have my long row with my cattle panel in it is still completely full of dried up and dormant Bermuda grass, as well as some frost-killed tomato plants. So I need to just clear all of that out and get ready for the new season. I have some rosemary that I'm going to be taking some cuttings of because I want to start some new plants for free, and it's faster to do that than to start it from seed. So I'll be showing you in another video how I do that, because free plants is always good. I've also got some figs that I want to take cuttings of too, and I promised in a previous video, and quite a few of you reached out and said that you really wanted a video about how to do fig cuttings. So I'm going to be doing that this week. So this is the perfect time for that. The figs are still dormant. They haven't broken bud yet, so it's the perfect time. I love taking fig cuttings in February. So we're going to be talking about which trees you can take cuttings from, not just figs, but I'm going to show you specifically how to do a fig cutting so that you can get some free trees, either from taking cuttings from your own tree or maybe from a friend that you can then plant in your yard maybe in the fall. It's really that fast. So then moving along, I have got a couple other things I want to show you over here, which is really exciting. A few months ago, I had asked your opinion on what I should do with this bed. I was actually thinking about just doing cut flowers or some kind of flowers, or maybe a combination of that with some mixed greens or some other type of vegetable variety. So I was asking your opinion, and you all had some really good ideas. What I ended up doing is just mixing a bunch of older seed that I had, a whole lot of different leftover flower packets, and instead of just purchasing new seed, I have been trying to challenge myself with using up some of the seed that I already have. I've got some seed that's getting older that needs to be used, and so I want to just try to use up what I have and not spend more money on just purchasing new seed packets. So that's what I did. I dumped it all into a bowl. These were things that had similar water requirements, similar soil requirements, and similar maturity, size at maturity. So you keep that in mind if you're trying to use up seed packets. Make sure that you at least dump packets together and mix together that have similar needs. So that's what I did, and I just sprinkled all the way down this row, and then I covered it to keep the birds out of it. And I have to admit that it has been pretty busy around here over the last couple of months, so I haven't even peeked under there to see what has been going on until earlier this week. And when I lifted up the row cover, I was so surprised to find that there were flowers blooming under there. Of course, the Linaria, which is one of the first always to bloom, is blooming right now. And I've got quite a few other things too that I want to show you. Some of the things I'm not exactly sure what they are yet, because I had a few kind of like mixed cutting or mixed wildflower packets that had a lot of different varieties in it, and some of them I'm not too sure yet what I'm looking at because they haven't bloomed and I'm not recognizing the leaves. But I do see some prickle poppies. I saw the Linaria. I saw some bachelor's buttons. I've seen some scabiosa in there, a few snapdragons. I think some Icelandic poppies. So we'll just have to see. It's kind of a big surprise to see what actually germinated since the seed was older. I did not expect all of it to germinate. Let me show you these flowers that are blooming, and then we're going to jump to the other side of the bed where I am having an issue. So you can see there's all sorts of different shapes and sizes in there, which is really fun. This is the one that I think is the Icelandic poppy. I've got some snapdragons here that you can see. I've got some asters in here, bachelor's buttons. I've got a couple of rogue peas, which is kind of funny, but they have beautiful blooms, so I'm just going to leave them. But here is that Linaria. Just look how beautiful that is. All different colors. And I've also got some onions in here. So I don't know how these got here, but I'm just going to let them be. Maybe they'll bloom. The pollinators really like onion blooms a lot, so I'll probably just let them do their thing. And then I'm also seeing some, which I think might be either some lace flower or some Dara. So we'll have to see what those end up being. But anyway, it's going to be just like a little mixed flower garden here right now, and I'll probably add a few more warm weather things later on. It's probably pretty hard to see because I still have it partially covered. let's go to this side of the bed where I still have it covered as well, and we'll peek under there and see what's going on. Just look at all of those beautiful lettuces. I've got the green and the red, and then this one is kind of a speckled color. The sun is very harsh right now. Hopefully you can see that. So I have that just kind of all the way along, and I've also got some sneaky little cilantro and other things that I have put in between here. So that is what's going on in the front of the bed. But in the back of the bed, you can see there's not really a whole lot going on. There's a few flowers that I'm seeing, but a lot of them are missing. I had to come over into my side yard underneath the pine trees because my neighbor is having some work done on his house, and there's an angle grinder running. So I had to escape that noise so that you all could hear me. But I want to tell you about what is going on that end of the bed where all of those flowers are missing. I took the same seed mix, sowed it at the same time and the same way, and have watered it exactly the same. It's all been covered with a row cover, and yet the flowers on that end are missing and the ones on the other side are not. My hypothesis is that maybe when I applied the row cover, a little critter, maybe a mouse or something, was in there, and maybe it got trapped because I had the row cover pinned on top, but then I had it weighed down with rocks all along the side, so it was pretty secure under there. And so I don't know if maybe there was a critter that was trapped in there that was desperate and just ate all of the sprouts, because it surely wasn't the bird since it was covered, and it surely wasn't the conditions or the care because everything was identical. So the only thing I can think of is that I had a little wee beast in there eating all of my flower seedlings. So that being said, I will have half of a bed of flower seedlings, and unless I buy starts, I will have to come up with a new plan. But that's all right because I always end up overplanting anyway. I've got hundreds of tomatoes in the house right now that are just waiting to come outside, and I'm trying to figure out if I should put them out now or if I should wait another week or two. Really, they need to come out now, but I've got some temperatures coming up, I think, in a week and a half or so. It looks like maybe 37 or 38 degrees is what the forecasted overnight low is, and a lot of times at my house it gets a little lower than what they are forecasting. So I don't want to stunt my tomato seedlings at all. So I'm just sort of waiting on that. I do have a bit of an experiment set up as maybe a solve for that problem, and that is I've got my wall of water outside set up, and I've got a thermometer in there, a sensor, and I've got the main base in the house, and so I'm measuring what the temperature is throughout the night and then during the day as well. And it looks like at night, our nighttime temperatures the last few days have been in the mid 40s, and it looks like that's kind of where the temperature is hovering inside that wall of water. So I'm just gonna wait and see. I don't know. I want the temperature to be at least 50 degrees during the night before I put my tomato seedlings out, because I don't want to shock or stunt them. So I'm still waiting on that. I'm still collecting some data, so I'll let you know. But it is almost tomato planting season, y'all, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek of my tomatoes right now that are in there cuddled up on my seed growing racks, my light racks that I have, and there are so many. I overplanted. I know I did. I always do, but I had quite a few that I wanted to try that are new to me. I am participating in a seed grow out for Seed Savers Exchange this year, so I have a special variety I'm going to be sharing that I'm growing for them. So there are going to be a lot of tomatoes this year, y'all, a lot of tomatoes, and I think I'm going to prioritize peppers too. So those are discussions for another day, but I'm changing it up a little bit this year. I forgot when I was over at my 4x4 beds that I wanted to share some of the potatoes that I planted over there. So these are a new variety for me to grow this year. They are from the Row 7 Seed Company, which is a really cool company. I'm going to put the link to their website down below. But from what I understand, it was started as a cooperation between plant breeders and farmers and chefs, and they are breeding specific varieties for texture and taste and growth habit. And so they've got some really tasty varieties that are out. Sometimes you can pick up some of their produce from Whole Foods in Tucson, so you could look for that if you wanted to try them before you decided to grow them. I tried a bag of their upstate potatoes. Now I think there's another part of that name, and I'm going to look it up and put it on the screen here for you, because My brain is not working today, but these were really delicious potatoes. They were pretty small, maybe like 2-inch round potato. I roasted them and they were so good. They had a really creamy texture and a really nice flavor. So I looked on their website and you could actually buy seed potatoes, which happen to be exactly the same bag of eating potatoes that I got at Whole Foods. So I just went ahead and I planted some of the ones that I had left over from the bag I bought at Whole Foods. And they're growing so well. They're looking really, really good. In one of my previous videos, I was talking about some things that you can do to protect your garden from the weather and why you need to keep the row covers or the frost covers up off of the plants and from touching them. And these potatoes actually show what happens if the row cover is touching the plant when you get a heavy or hard frost, and the leaves will get singed because that cold gets transferred through that material or fabric and into the plant leaf, and then it singes the plant leaf and it has cold damage on it. So I wanted to show you that. If you want to look at that video, I will link that down below for you. It's all about frost protection and why certain things work and certain things don't, and some tricks that you can do to protect your plants, because I do realize even though it's 80 degrees right now here in southern Arizona, if you're watching from somewhere else in the country or from somewhere else in the world, you are probably still experiencing winter. And so having frost protection information for your garden is really important. So you can look for that down below. Moving on to the last long row that I have, I've got a ton of carrots planted. I think I have like 3 rows of carrots planted. And so I planted some about 2 months ago, and then I've got some that I planted just a week or 2 ago. So those aren't up yet, but the ones on the other end of the bed are, and they're looking like they're coming right along. If you want to grow a really quick batch of carrots, usually carrots take between 50 and 60 days. So you probably still have time to get those in the ground and to get those planted and grown and harvested before the heat of May and June come. So if you hurry up, you could get carrots. My stock tanks are pretty much fizzled out. I've got some arugula that is going to flower, and I'm going to leave that for the pollinators, and then I will be chopping that up and leaving that in the soil to try to treat for some of the nematode issues that I've been having. The nasturtiums are doing well, but they are starting to kind of fizzle out. They are no longer in their prime. And I've got some really interesting bloom colors this year because all of these were volunteer from last year. So they were just cross-pollinated, I'm sure, by all of the pollinators that were loving the flowers last spring. And there's one in particular that I'm really loving. It's an orange and then it's got red streaks in it. And I've got a string that I tied around that plant so that I can save the seeds from that one because they are beautiful. I love those. I've also got a circular stock tank that is full of arugula and lettuce and just some leafy greens. And I've got the cage over at Stoll that I built that I will cover with frost cloth every once in a while if I think it's going to be really cold. But I took it off this week and I realized that I had volunteer sunflowers that are a really good size already, and some volunteer tomatoes as well growing in there. It has been that unseasonably warm for us down here where I am. So I'm not sure what I'll do with that. I may just let those sunflowers go, but I will probably move those tomatoes out. Honestly, I don't need any more volunteer tomatoes because I've got so many tomato seedlings in the house. And these are a volunteer from a hybrid that I grew last year called the Juliet. So it probably will not breed true. However, the experimenter in me really wants to see what I get, even though I probably should not waste my space with an unknown when I have so many great tomato varieties in the house. So we'll see about that. So that is what is going on in my garden right now. That is a very quick flyover. So this week, look out for the fig cutting video. And I've also got a video I'm going to be sharing about the flowers that you can start right now. If you want to have flowers grown from seed, you can start so many different varieties of flowers for your summer garden. So I'm starting some in the house right now. I'm also direct sowing some of them, and I want to share those with you. But since there are so many, I may break that up into a couple of different videos. So look for that. It's a busy time in the garden, so it is time to start gearing up with all of the gardening videos, and I hope that you will stay tuned for next time. I'm Kara from So Arizona, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy gardening.